Community is something we hear about time and time again. But what does it mean? Who are they talking about? This is a day, and this is me, and we want to find out what community means, but also what it means for the people in Exeter who are involved.
We want to know what community means to you.
Community?
Yeah, what the word means, isn't it?
An area where people live, all sorts of people live together.
I suppose at the end of the day it's really having a sense of belonging and having a sense that the people around you all sort of belong together. That's my idea of community.
Well, community is a second family, isn't it?
That's a very deep question to answer in very quickly.
You don't feel that you're involved at all?
In community?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose I always, when you see politicians and things talking, they always seem to refer to it as sort of local community groups, and I don't know anyone in my local area really. I travel outside of my area to meet people I know and like and do the things with them that I like doing, but none of those things, unless drinking isn't necessarily a community activity. Going to work is a community, but it's not a community activity.
It's funny, isn't it, how you term it, I suppose, and how you describe that sensation or the feelings of being involved with something.
Phonic is a community radio station based in Exeter.
I present a couple of shows on Phonic, and I'm on the board as well.
One of your shows is about transition.
Yeah, it's well-being and transition show, and that I mean that itself is a community show, in the sense that it's a community presenter that present it. It's one show every week on a Wednesday, and it's different presenters every week when we mix together.
Back to you then, with what you found out from Wikipedia about lettuce this week.
For better or for worse, it feels like it's run by a community of people. So you get the representation of a lot of different voices, rather than a small panel of people responding to funny, weird demographic statistics about what they think people want to listen to.
How else are you involved in the community of Exeter, apart from Phonic?
I started working with Transition Exeter, and the things that I believed in and the things I wanted to see changing in my community, I thought could be best handled by an initiative like Transition Exeter. And then I thought, what skills do I have? And I thought I can do a radio show, so I'll do a radio show that embodies and encompasses those sorts of themes of grassroots social change. It's probably changed a bit since then, but in some way I think I'm still hoping to influence how people think and possibly behave and react to life by presenting something very different every Friday morning.
There's a big transition movement all around the world now, but every city, every village, every town's different, and
they sometimes meet in the Exeter Community Centre as well.
The Exeter group meet in different places around the city, but one of the places is the community centre.
So how would you define community?
It's different thing to different people, isn't it? And there's all sorts of different communities, and a lot of them overlap. So I think they're all centred about specific interests which people want to pursue. That's always the way, isn't it, within community? There's got to be something to draw them together.
Yeah.
I think what something like Transition Exeter does, it brings community to people who were not born in this community. I think, you think of Devon communities and it's very close-knit, people who are born here, who've been here for generations, and someone who's come from outside of Devon, I don't really feel I'm part of the community. And kind of joining a group like this helps me feel like there is a community. And having been to events, I've met people who I actually know, and it's kind of closed a link. I think when you meet people in more than one context, you kind of, it feels like you actually belong somewhere.
The interesting thing I was thinking about is that when a politician says community, they just mean everybody that they want to vote for them, or whatever it is. But actually, a community is very like what happens if you don't dig the soil. It develops fungi underneath that connect all sorts of areas, and they transfer water to where it's needed, and they transfer nutrients to where it's needed. And a community does that if it's left undisturbed. But our communities are so disintegrated, people having to move for jobs and work, and generations are split and the different needs. If you're young, you can't afford to live in the countryside and all that sort of thing. Our community's split so much, and the way our society is organised doesn't allow the community to form and do what it does if it's left to become an organic whole where the bits respond to each other.
So all these things about connections and the different types of community are really organic processes about finding relationships and where you fit in.
I live in the Poleslow area, but I don't really know anyone there, so am I still a part of that community because you represent the people that live there?
Well, Poleslow itself is a community because it's a community by its electoral division. When I walk down Whites Road and I talk to people there, they have their own particular problems, their own particular gripes about life, and their own particular views of what they would like to see. And most of that is very speeding cars, traffic, worried about their children, worried about other things that happen in the road, and they require help. So there is a community within Whites Road, always has been, and it is a community which has evolved over the years, because it used to be that a lot of Whites Road was actually dominated by railway people. I know of just one who actually works on the railway now, who lives in Whites Road.
How would you kind of get to the crux of all that? How would you define that then? Because it seems to be very different. Is there any way you can similarity or anything?
I would define a community as a group of people that live in an area who are living their daily lives as individuals, but will come together in different occupations or different ways to develop and coordinate social skills within an area. For instance, what we have now is different communities that may share the same values, but very often it takes something to get them together. And that something can be a group or a small group within a community who say, we would like to do something in this area. And they're very committed to doing that.
It's a community agriculture project, meaning it's not a community-supported agriculture project. This is us doing it all on our own, but within a network of committed organic farming mentors around us.
It took a long time with a group of random people who didn't know each other to work out what actually our principles were, and the things that came out were reconnecting people with the land, which was really important. Not just for our food, but to have some connection with land, but also building community around that piece of land as well. So that it's really important, as well as the whole food production thing.
Is that what's good about it, though? Is that it's something for everyone?
Potentially it is. I mean, the location in itself is breathtaking. When you think you're only 5 minutes by car from a bustling city, full of people in traffic jams, stressed out of their minds, and you come here and you think, what's the problem?
So the interesting thing about doing this is that in a lot of ways we kind of found the obvious, that community's about commonality and tolerance, but it also, there's something else to it. It kind of goes a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that it's not just about people talking to each other. Well, it is, of course, and that's important, but it's also about how people are enabled to do that, what resources and utilities are offered people to meet, and I suppose, not just about people's attitudes and whether they actually get involved in the community and make a change, or whether they enjoy living in the place they're living, or enjoy the kind of people they get to meet. But it's also about changing things, and understanding how what you do can have an effect or impact on the largest city. Because once you're involved with one thing, I think you tend to become involved with lots of other things, or certainly learn about them. So just by being involved with phonics, for example, you get to learn about lots of other things that are going on in lots of different areas. Whether it's music, or whether it's with community events, or stuff that's happening that the council are putting on, or community groups. or whatever, you get to see the kind of the narrative, if you like, of the city, and that's quite interesting, I think, because the question is, well, what is that story, and how can we shape it? Whether we're involved in a community or not, you know, we're still having an impact on that story.